All right, I have now closed everything other than Tinkercad and Chrome. All right, so I'm going to go to create a new design. Nathan, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, Tinkercad's moving slowly. Hopefully yours is moving faster. Okay, so we're going to start with what's a basic shape that is most like your controller? Nathan, looking at the
Yeah.
screen, the hint should be fairly obvious. Which shape is most similar to your controller, would you say?
It'll probably be maybe a cylinder.
Let's use a cylinder. Okay, so the first thing to do is to recognize that down here at the bottom are these numbers. I don't know how big your actual controller is, but it's probably not that different from about 8 centimeters by 5 centimeters. So I'm just going to use this. You can actually um, measure your controller.
Oh,
And then
Mr.
I'm going to put in.
Mr. Allen, may I go to the bathroom, please?
Of course.
Okay.
And I know this isn't quite correct, but I'm just going to put this in and I'm going to approximate. Because really the goal for me right now is just to show you how it works. So I'm going to hit Command C and Command V. And I'm going to have the two sort of arms of the controller. And I'm going to try to align them so that that makes sort of a non-bumpy. Does this kind of look controller-ish?
That looks like the Huawei Pad Mini.
Say again?
Yeah, that looks like a controller, but it's a different one. But yeah,
yes,
that doesn't matter.
I've actually never had a Switch, so I really don't know what the controllers look like. So what I've done is I've grouped them. I've clicked this button here that's group. So now all three objects become one. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Command C and I'm going to Command V. And then I'm going to shrink it by about 7 centimeters. And I'm going to raise it up a little bit. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to turn it into a hole. What does that do, you may ask? I will show you. Now I've put that inside and I'm going to group these two. So what that does is that creates a hollow inside. Now I'm going to duplicate this whole grouped thing. I'm going to slide it over here to the side, Command C, Command V, and I'm going to take a box. I'm going to turn it into a hole. I'm going to lift it up to what I think is about the halfway point using this little black triangle. Are you watching what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And so far it's making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete about half of it using this hole. And that's going to create, when I hit the group button, two hollow controllers. Now obviously one of them is going to have the holes for the actual buttons. I'm not going to make much of an attempt to make them very much like buttons. But let's just say that, I don't know, let's go for 5 centimeters circles. I'm sorry, 5 millimeter circles. That's a half a centimeter. Now let's do it, well, 5 millimeter rather, half a centimeter. I'm going to turn that into a hole. I'm going to Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V. How many buttons do I need?
4.
Okay, and then I'm going to create this, and I'm going to go to this little curvy thing, and I'm going to turn it. How many degrees?
90.
You know exactly what I'm doing, don't you?
Yeah, you're making the direction
What am I
apart.
doing? I am. And I'm not going to worry about whether it's correct. I'm just going to make it. I'm going to turn them into a hole after I've grouped them. And then I'm going to turn them. Is it on the left or the right side of the controller?
The left side of the controller.
Perfect. Why did I put it on the right side of the controller?
Because that's the bottom half of it, so then when you flip it over, it will be on the left side.
Correct. All right. Now, again, I haven't even looked at a game controller in ages. I probably need to put the start and select buttons on there, but I'm just doing this to show you how it works, so I'm not going to worry about the details. Now, I'm going to make sure, look at it from the bottom. Now, that's more or less correct. Again, I would actually measure my real controller and make sure that the dimensions were correct. And now I'm going to go up again to the group button. And now I've got my controller. So I could literally take, if I measured these properly, I could literally take apart a real controller and make my own. I can also 3D print the parts that I just made and make my own buttons. I'd obviously want to shrink them down just a tiny bit so there's a little room so they move back and forth. But with this and a makey, which we have in the office, we could actually build our own functioning controller. And that controller would be much easier to use on a laptop. But since there's plenty of Nintendo emulators out there in different hacker spaces, we could actually play some of our games and play with the controls in that way. And then you could remap whatever you want. So even if we can't remap the actual switch, we can learn a process by which we can actually hack the whole thing. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording so I can send this to you. Do you have anything else you'd like me to show you before I send it to you?
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right, perfect.